I hope that you're all doing good. Welcome back. Welcome to my channel. Please do not mind my hair. Once again, I have just woken up from a nap. Today we're gonna be reading some scary stories. Just like the MIVL ones we read on Thursday. There isn't gonna be any theme to this video. We're just catching up. Because it's been weeks since I've been on Reddit. It's been weeks since I've been on Reddit. So we are just catching up on what is hot at the minute. And I have browsed through and I picked a couple that I think are pretty good. One of them is super long though, with multiple parts, so to the point where like I think it'll have to be its own video, so that one won't get read today, but at some point, maybe next week. Yeah, we'll do it next week. Okay. The first one is by Wisto. It is titled, "If you ever see a gas station that says last stop for 70 miles, keep driving." I was about 4 hours into a 6-hour drive when I realized I needed to stop. Not just for gas, but because I was falling asleep at the wheel. My eyes kept drifting shut for half a second at a time. That thing where you blink and suddenly you're 50 feet further down the road than you thought you were. I turned up the music and rolled down the window, but the cold air only helped for a few minutes. I needed caffeine. The highway was empty. I hadn't seen another car in at least 20 minutes. When I saw the glow of a gas station sign up ahead, I felt relieved. It was one of those old independent places, not a chain. The kind that looks like it hasn't been updated since the 80s. A single building with 2 pumps out front, and a hand-painted sign that said, "Last stop for 70 miles." I pulled in and parked at the pump. The lot was empty except for a beat-up truck parked around the side of the building. I figured it belonged to whoever was working the night shift. I got out, stretched my legs, and filled my tank. I paid at the pump and headed inside. I should have just gotten back in my car and left, but I needed that coffee, and I needed to use the bathroom, so I walked inside. The store was small, a few aisles of snacks and car supplies, a coffee station in the back corner with those glass pots that had probably been sitting on the burner for hours, a cooler full of sodas and energy drinks along the back wall. The lights were harsh and fluorescent kind that made everything look slightly off. The attendant was behind the counter. He was maybe 50, with thinning grey hair and a face that looked like it hadn't slept in days. He had the TV on, some late-night infomercial with the sound turned low. He looked up when I walked in and something in his expression changed. Just for a second, like he was surprised to see me, or worried. "Evening," he said. "Hey, just grabbing a coffee." I walked to the back and poured myself a cup. It was burnt and bitter, but I didn't care. I just needed the caffeine to get me through the next 2 hours. I grabbed a candy bar too and brought everything to the counter. "Something wrong?" I asked. He looked at me for a long moment, then he slid a piece of paper across the counter, a napkin. He had written on it in pen, "You're being followed. Don't go back to your car." I stared at the napkin. Then I looked back up at him. His face was completely serious. "What are you talking about?" He held up a hand. "Keep your voice down. Look at the monitor." He pointed to a small security screen mounted on the wall behind the counter. It showed a black and white feed of the parking lot. My car was there, and someone was standing next to it. My stomach dropped. The figure was on the passenger side, just standing there facing the store. I couldn't make out any features. They were wearing dark clothes and their face was in shadow. I spun around and looked out the window. There was no one there. Just my car, empty lot, nothing. What the hell? I looked at the monitor. The figure was still standing there, standing in the same spot. "What the hell?" I whispered. "It doesn't show up when you look directly," the attendant said. "Only on the cameras. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But I know what happens to people who go out there when it's waiting for them." My heart was pounding. I looked out the window again. Nothing. Back at the monitor. The figure had moved. It was closer to the front of my car now, still facing the store. "This is insane," I said. "This has to be some kind of trick." "I wish it was." He reached under the counter and pulled out a folder. Inside were printed news articles, missing persons reports, headlines about bodies found on the highway. 4 people in the last 8 months, he said. All of them stopped here late at night. All of them went back to their cars even after I warned them. They found them a few miles down the road. Cars stopped in the middle of the highway, engines still running. Drivers still in their seats, eyes open. No marks on them. Coroner said their hearts just stopped. I felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. I looked at the articles, the photos of the victims, a young woman, a middle-aged man, a couple in their 30s, real people, real deaths. Why haven't the police done anything? I asked. Done what? There's nothing to investigate. No signs of foul play, no witnesses. Just people dying on a lonely stretch of highway. Happens all the time. They chalk it up to fatigue or medical emergencies. I looked at the monitor again. The figure was even closer now, standing right in front of my car. How long does it stay? I asked. Until sunrise, usually. Sometimes longer, but if you stay inside, you're safe. It can't come in here. Why not? He shrugged. I don't know. I stopped asking questions like that months ago. I just know the rules. Stay inside when it's dark. Don't go out to the lot. Wait for daylight. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell him he was crazy, but I couldn't explain the figure on the monitor. I couldn't explain why it wasn't there when I looked with my own eyes. Okay, I said. I'll wait. He looked relieved. Good. Smart. You can sit in the back if you want. There's a couch. I've got some magazines. It's only about 4 hours until sunrise. He walked to the front door and locked it. The click of the deadbolt was loud in the quiet store. Just in case, he said. Sometimes people panic and try to run. This way you won't do anything stupid. Something about the way he said it made me uncomfortable. But I told myself he was just being cautious. He was trying to help. I sat down on a stool near the counter. The attendant went back to watching his infomercial. Every few minutes I would look at the monitor. The figure was always there, sometimes in a different position, sometimes closer to the building, but always there. After about an hour, I asked if I could use the bathroom. He pointed to a door near the back of the store. Right through there. I got up and walked towards it. As I passed the counter, I glanced at the security monitor again. Something was different. It took me a second to realize what it was. The timestamp. The footage showed 11:47 p.m., but it was after 3 a.m. now. I had checked my phone when I first came inside. It was definitely past 2. I stopped walking. I looked at the monitor more carefully. The footage wasn't live. It was a loop. The same few minutes playing over and over. My blood went cold. I looked out the window at my car. Rarely looked this time. There was no one out there. There had never been anyone out there. I kept my voice calm. Hey, what time does that camera say? He didn't answer for a second. When I turned around, he was standing right behind me. You should use the bathroom, he said. His voice was different now, flatter. You've been holding it for a while. The timestamp is wrong, I said. The footage is old. His expression didn't change. He just stared at me with those tired eyes. You saw the articles, he said. You saw what happens to people on this highway. Those could be from anywhere. Anyone could print those out. He took a step toward me. I took a step back. You should stay, he said. It's not safe out there. I looked at the door. Locked. The deadbolt needed a key from this side. Where's the key? I asked. I can't let you leave. Not until morning. For your own safety. I backed up further. My hand found the door handle to the back room. I pushed it open and stepped through. It wasn't a break room. It was a storage space. Dim light from a single bulb. Shelves lined the walls. And on the shelves were boxes. Dozens of them. Each one labelled with a date. I opened the nearest one. Inside was a wallet. A phone with a cracked screen. A set of car keys. A driver's license. The photo showed a young woman. Blonde hair, smiling. I recognized her face from the articles. I opened another box. Different items, different license. The middle-aged man. He hadn't been warning those people. He had been taking them. I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around. He was standing in the doorway, blocking the exit. They always figure it out, he said. But by then it's too late. No cell signal out here. Nearest town is 40 miles. No one to hear you scream. He was holding something, a length of cord. I backed into the shelves. My hand closed around something heavy. A wrench, old and rusted, but solid. You don't want to do this, he said. It'll be easier if you just cooperate. He stepped forward. I swung. The wrench connected with the side of his head. He stuck it sideways and hit the wall. I didn't wait to see if he went down. I ran past him through the doorway into the main store. The front door was still locked. I grabbed a stool from the counter and swung it against the glass window. It cracked but didn't break. I swung again. I could hear him behind me, getting up, cursing. The third swing went through. I knocked out the remaining glass with the stool and climbed through the window frame. Shards cut my arms and legs, but I didn't care. I dropped onto the pavement outside and ran for my car. My keys were still in my pocket. My phone was still in the cup holder where I left it. I got in and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I saw him stumbling out through the broken window. I floored it. I drove for an hour without stopping. When I finally pulled over at a rest stop, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I'm sitting in my car now, doors locked, engine running. I called 911. They're sending someone to the gas station. They told me to stay where I am and wait for an officer to come take my statement. I keep checking my mirrors. I keep expecting to see headlights behind me. The sun is coming up now. I can see the sky turning grey on the horizon. I should feel relieved, but I don't. Because when I climbed through that window, when I ran to my car and looked back at the store, I saw the security monitor through the broken glass. The figure was still on the screen, standing in the lot, but it wasn't by my car anymore. It was standing exactly where I had been standing when I broke the window. I don't know what he had playing on that monitor. I don't know if it was really a loop or something else entirely. I don't know if he made it all up to scare people into staying, or if there was some truth buried under the lies. All I know is that I'm never driving this highway again. And if you ever see a gas station sign that says last stop for 70 miles, keep driving. Whatever's waiting there, you don't want to find out. That one was pretty good. At first I thought it was going to be like the classic, someone's in the backseat of your car when it first read it. And now it's very different. Okay, this next one is really good too. Not like super scary, but it's really cool, I think, and well written. This next one is by Cyber Crustacean 0, and it's titled, "In this place, anyone without a name is shot on sight. I am forced to pretend that I still remember mine." I remember stumbling through the forest at night. I was on my hands and knees. The gun had fallen from my hand and I could feel the dirt and snow between my fingers. Not too far off was a faint light. I squinted, focusing on the ground beneath me. At that moment, I heard a sound. A rustle, a crack, a short distance away. It sounded as if it were moving away. It was impossible to focus. I had no idea where the noise was coming from, or where it was going, or what was making it, but it was close. My fingers brushed against a hard metal object. The gun. I had found it. I picked it up and brought myself to my feet. When I rose, the light was no longer visible. I flinched suddenly. A gunshot. I saw a burst of light far away and I listened carefully. There was another bang, quickly followed by 4 more in rapid succession, briefly tainting the scene with splotches of light. Then I heard another sound, a wild, desperate scream. It was silenced only moments later. I couldn't care less about the gunshot, or the scream, or even the ominous endless sounds around me. I had to get out of the cold. I began walking towards the scream, toward the location of the light that was now extinguished. I walked and soon found myself on the edge of a clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a small, decrepit wooden cabin. The cabin seemed to tilt right, then left, and focus in and out. It was becoming hard to stay conscious, but I had to keep walking. I stumbled against the door. As soon as I stepped inside, the sounds from the forest cut off, and I fell forward. That was all I remember from that night. That's all I remember at all. The memory of where I was or how I had gotten there eludes me. I awoke on the cold wooden floor, lying face down. My face ached and my muscles were tense. I sat up and looked around. The cabin was a single room and a complete mess. Old books, papers, and various objects were strewn about. There was charcoal in the fireplace, some of it burned, the rest scattered across the hearth as if someone had tried to extinguish the fire in a hurry. There was a rucksack propped up against the wall next to the fireplace. It was a standard green and brown model, with dozens of miscellaneous items tied to the sides. Objects that were too large to fit adequately into the main compartment. A large roll of fabric, a metal pot, and a small hatchet hanging off the back. I examined the items briefly, then reached for the zipper and pulled it open. I threw its contents on the floor. I saw tightly packed rolls of clothing, bags and bottles and cans and packages. None of these were immediately useful to me. None of these told me where I was or even who I was. I reached for a smaller pocket on the outside of the rucksack. Inside was a book. Finally, I thought, information. I pulled out the book and looked at the hard leather cover. Alex. There was no title, no dates, and besides the name on the cover, it was entirely unadorned. Judging by the survival equipment in the rucksack, whoever this Alex was, this situation must have surely been similar to my own. I could only hope this book contained useful information. I opened the first page. A survivor with no name must be shot on sight. It was an absurdly vague point, yet it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My name was the thing that eluded me the most. My life and my experiences were incomprehensible blurs of emotion, but at least I could recognize the emotions for what they were. My identity, however, was a complete void. What could be the purpose of that warning, I thought. Perhaps a person who wouldn't say their name could not be trusted. No, it couldn't be that simple. The list went on for an incredible amount of pages, and each note seemed more absurd than the last. At some point I had stopped reading the notebook altogether and was simply trying to make sense of what it was about. The points were all about staying safe, not trusting people, and avoiding infection. Some were common sense, like knowing where your north is, but others were far stranger, like only ever cutting your hair outdoors, and always cutting it as short as possible to avoid contamination. My own hair was quite short, and I wondered whether this rule may have been common knowledge for me at some time, but why couldn't I remember? I closed the book and say it, and the rule would be satisfied. Whatever the reason behind the note, I knew it was important to have a name. Alex, I said out loud to see how natural I could make it sound. Alex, I repeated. What is your name? I said, speaking as if to a stranger. It's Alex. I looked back at the notebook. Alex wasn't my name, but it was theirs, the owner of the rucksack. My real name was lost. It would have been nice to know what it was, but at least I could give myself one. I could start somewhere. Whoever the real Alex was, he was dead. And here I was, searching through his stuff and stealing his name. I told myself it didn't matter anymore. I was startled suddenly. A knock on the door, then 3 more. I shot up and scrambled to the entrance, searching for the gun I had dropped the night before. I found it and wrapped my hand around the handle, but before I could get up, the door opened. Your name? What is it? A voice said from the entrance. I turned around slowly, lifting my eyes to see the woman in the doorway. I saw through the barrel of a large shotgun. Her finger tensed as I hesitated to speak. Alex, I said. It's Alex. I saw her grip ease slightly. The barrel was lowered. What is your name? I said, hoping to make it sound natural. Anna, she said. She passed through the doorway with a quick step and shut the door behind her. You're early. She looked around the room with a look of mild disgust, the shotgun still loose in her arms, pointing at the floor. Why is the fire out? I thought for a moment. There was a situation last night. I was forced to extinguish it, I said. She gave me a scornful look. Your name checks out, so I suppose you're the Alex I was supposed to meet. If it weren't for that, you'd be dead, but don't think I won't be keeping an eye on you. We have a lot to talk about. What had I gotten myself into? What was I supposed to do? I didn't know who Alex was or why Anna was expecting to meet them. I had to play along. I walked over to where Anna was standing. Do you have access to the city yet? She said. I had to place myself in Alex's shoes. If I didn't know who he was or where the city was, I thought about the night before, about the gunshot, the scream. No, I don't. It's a good thing I'm here then. I didn't say anything. Suddenly my arm twitched violently. I panicked and reached for it with my other hand to hold it still. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't know what the twitch was, but whatever it was, Anna was suspicious enough already. I looked up toward her, expecting to see through the barrel of her gun again. The shotgun was still pointing toward the ground, and her gaze was set on the fireplace. She hadn't seen the sudden movement. The twitch, what had it been? Anna looked at the ground for a few moments, then spoke. We'll leave the city as soon as the sun goes down. You're lucky they decided to give you access, Alex. My mind focused again. I tried to forget about the twitch. The city. What city? Right, I suppose so. Security has been pretty tight lately. I'm not surprised. Infection rates are rising, she said. I can't say I blame them, I said, though I had no idea what I was talking about. Right, Anna said. If one of them gets inside, it's all over. I'm glad you understand. This time I felt it coming before it happened. Another twitch. I felt it creeping up my neck like an insect. I had to shake it away. But if Anna saw me, what then? I didn't know what the twitch was, but I doubted it was anything good. I couldn't let which was followed by a strange tingling sensation around my throat. Thankfully, Anna didn't see. Before I began picking up the items of the rucksack, I scrambled to find the journal. As soon as I found it, I flipped to the page I had last read. As if to answer my doubts, the very first sentence of the page read, "Anyone who makes unexplained sudden movements must be shot on sight." I felt sick. The journal. It was about people like me, and the more I read, the more obvious this fact became. Amnesia is a sure sign of infection, said the final sentence of the page. I was the enemy in the journal, but why? Why was I dangerous? The book contained nothing to explain it. I finished packing the rucksack and stood up, walking to where Anna was standing. "You ready, Alex?" "Yeah." "I'm convinced you're not one of them, so I think we're ready to proceed. I'm gonna give you access to the city, but you have to promise me something first," she said. "Of course. If you feel any symptoms, and I mean any, put a bullet in your brain before you step foot in the city." My body tensed. "Alex, you have to understand what would happen if one of them got inside. The city is the only place left. If it falls, there won't be anywhere left in the world to hide. Do you promise?" I didn't want to die. Surely there was another way. There had to be. "Alex, did you hear me?" No, I wouldn't give up. I couldn't die yet. Not when my past was a blur of memory. The way I saw it, my life had just begun. Why did it have to start in this awful nightmare? Before I could even speak, we heard a noise outside the cabin. A sudden gasp, as if someone had surfaced after being underwater for too long. Anna ran outside. Before I even had time to process what was happening, I quickly followed behind. We circled the cabin until we reached the wall where sound had come from. There, slumped against the wall of the cabin. I quickly followed behind. We circled the cabin until we reached the wall where the sound had come from. There, slumped against the wall of the cabin, was a man covered in blood and snow with a rifle on his lap. His wounds were vicious and erratic. His eyes were wide and his face was pale. He looked terrified. "What the hell?" Anna whispered. The man gasped for air. Realization hit me like a train. The gunshots, the scream. He was alive. "Alex, do you know who this is? Do you know what happened?" Anna turned to face me. The man looked at her, then slowly looked at me. I don't know," I said. "He must have been here before I arrived." The man held my gaze, and there was something else behind his eyes. Something unmistakable and undeniable. Anger. He knew. This was Alex, the real Alex. If he revealed the truth, it would be the end of me. He opened his mouth. "No," he wheezed. "I am." "He's one of them," I yelled, drowning out the man's words before he could reveal his identity. I didn't even know who they were. I just had to say something. Anything. The injured man said nothing. He simply stared up at me with the same silent, judging eyes. He looked sad somehow. I saw him tense his arm around the rifle on his lap. A deafeningly loud sound rang out. I turned away as I felt my ear. The sound had caught me off guard, and it took me a while to recover. When I looked back, the wall behind the man was covered in fresh blood. "Damn it, why did he have to reach for the rifle?" Anna said. Smoke was coming out the barrel of her shotgun. "But I suppose you're right. He was probably dead meat anyway." My stomach sank. This was my fault. The real Alex was dead, and there I was with his name and the knowledge that if he had revealed who he was, Anna would have put a bullet through my chest instead. At least the real Alex is dead, I thought, and the information has gone with him. But the man was still breathing. Anna had aimed low. His stomach was a mess, but he was still breathing. He opened his mouth. No, I'm Alex. Short, barely audible, but incriminating nonetheless. A moment of awful silence. There was no way out of this. You bastard, Anna screamed. As soon as I saw the barrel of the shotgun trained in my chest, I ducked out of the way. The shot rang out and sent a spray of splinters around me. I dashed behind the corner of the cabin and ran toward the door. I had to get my pistol. Alex had gotten a shotgun shell to his stomach because of me, and now Anna would do the same to me. I felt terrible, but I didn't have time to question my decision. I rushed through the door just as I heard another shotgun blast. Glass sprayed the interior of the cabin. I lunged toward the table where my pistol was, wrapping my hand around it as my back fell to the ground. Anna charged through the door and fired, but my body was already against the ground and she had aimed too high. The trigger didn't budge when I pressed it. Even though the gun was mine, I had no memory of how to use it. Anna adjusted her aim. The gun clicked, but nothing happened. She was out of ammunition. I flicked the switch on the side of my gun. My finger was so tense around the trigger that the pistol fired immediately and unexpectedly. My ears rang, and I turned my head away from the light. 3 more shots were fired, though I didn't look up to see where they had landed. When the smoke cleared from the pistol, I raised my head. The door was wide open, and Anna was gone. I shot to my feet and ran toward the door, but before I could step outside, I saw her. Anna was lying in the snow. His shotgun was pointing up at me. It clicked harmlessly again and again. Blood was running down her lips. After staring at me for a few moments, she dropped the shotgun and brought her hands to her neck. It seemed only one of my shots had hit the target. Blood spurted between her fingers. I stumbled backwards and fell against the floor. I couldn't bear it. What had I done? I didn't even understand what was happening, what I had done to deserve this. I had acted on instinct. I never meant to kill anyone. I told myself again and again that I had no choice. I'm writing this now in that cursed journal. The one that warns of people like me. But maybe I truly am the enemy. After all, I am responsible for the corpses outside. But what choice did I have? I had to survive. The real Alex is dead, and even though it was not me who pulled the trigger, his blood is on my hands. Maybe Anna was right. He was going to die anyway. Anna carried with her a map and, more importantly, a card. Access to the city gates, it says. The twitching has gotten worse. It's almost uncontrollable now, and there is a certain hunger growing within me, though I don't know what it is or what it wants. Is this the infection the book spoke of? Maybe there, in the city, they can help me. One of the comments says here, people like OP are the reason why humanity will get wiped out if we ever happen to get a zombie epidemic or something extremely contagious and deadly. They'll get infected, then lie about it in the hopes of somehow surviving through it.